And who might you be?
Those may have been the first Zemurian words I ever heard. Rufina Argent. Although she wasn't a Dominion, she was still a knight of the Gralsviter trusted deeply by Her Holiness, my grandmother. Supposedly, she found me in the middle of the wilderness on the outskirts of Zemuria when I was about 4 years old.
Where are you?
At the time, I was apparently speaking words completely alien from any heard in Zemuria. Although now, I can't recall anything from back then myself. Maybe whatever role, whatever identity I had before was completed and overwritten once my role in this world was defined. Rufina took me home with her to the holy city of Arteria, where I was introduced to the woman I'd come to think of as my grandmother, Hope Orestes. I was just a little girl, only able to speak in tongues. Yet, she seemed to understand everything and took me under her wing. It was written a final saint would appear just before the end times, though only in an apocrypha known as the Hidden Book of Arict. I'm still not completely certain whether I am this person, but it was clear that it was to be a girl who would appear from beyond Zemuria. I spent most of my childhood in the Tranquil Gardens, the holy courtyard of the Papal Palace, located in the rear of the Grand Cathedral. Though I was kept a secret, there were several people who came to visit me. Some, I could tell, did so with ill intent. I spent roughly 10 years there, under the guidance of my grandmother and others. It would seem that even as a young girl, I never had much of a sense of who I was. I learned the Zemurian language quickly, and would respond to others with whatever words and demeanor they most wanted to hear. To some, this was all the proof they needed that I was the saint, seeing such an ability as being perfectly suited to the role. However, grandmother, Rufina, and Rufina's friend all seemed to think otherwise. When I was 8 years old, I suddenly manifested a power that had been lying dormant in me, the Akashic Eye. Silvery irises said to be held by the final saint. The first thing those eyes showed me was Rufina hugging a young boy I'd never seen before, smiling lightly as she passed away. I screamed and lost consciousness. When I awoke, grandmother was there tending to me. She informed me then that Rufina had met her tragic end. It was at that point that I decided I would fulfill the role as saint that had been laid out for me. Not necessarily because of this power that I now held, but because I wanted to believe there was some important meaning behind Rufina finding me that day. So, with the informal authority the role granted me, I started to gather intel at the age of 10. I was given free rein to mobilize the Papal Guard's Iscariot unit, so I deployed them across the continent. Using my eyes, I would scan the information they would bring me, looking closely for signs of the end. Liberl, Crossbell, the Erebonian Empire. There were many places that drew my interest, but there was one in particular I kept being drawn toward. The one right at the center of this world, rather, of the continent of Zemuria. The Calvard Republic. Amidst the jumble of colors, my silver eyes caught sight of an immeasurable white void. And then, at 14 years old, I bid farewell to my grandmother and left for the Republic, pretending to be the daughter of an Eastern trader. I'd initially intended to stay working behind that facade, but I became interested in film after seeing a certain someone's career take off. What's more, this new friend of mine took it upon herself to send my information to a talent agency without asking. As a result, well, I decided I'd have to fulfill my role in a very different way than I originally planned. But for some reason, I get the feeling that neither Her Holiness nor Rufina or her friend will mind. It doesn't change the fact that I'm still committed to my mission, but... well, I suppose it's simply all part of the goddess's plan.